You're listening to BizQuik. This is where Julie and Corey provide quick and useful information to small business owners. BizQuik is the podcast where small business owners get to showcase their businesses and receive expert advice and guidance in areas many entrepreneurs struggle with. And you, the listener, get solutions, tips, and tricks on real-world topics that many small business owners face. Julie and Corey are the experts small businesses hire when they need solutions. And the BizQuik podcast is just one way they deliver those solutions. Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to BizQuik. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And on today's show, we have Jen Radostits. Jen is she's a financial guru. She loves to work with ambitious women and business owners, and she loves to get uncomfortable. She's got bold faith, guts, and discipline. And we're going to talk to her about networking because Jen is what I would refer to as a connector. She loves to connect people in her network. She's super generous in that area. And it's just really nice to see somebody who's so willing to connect others to help them advance their businesses. But before we bring Jen in, we're going to talk about networking and just the importance of having a strong network to grow your business and how you do it when you don't really have social media.
Well, funny you should mention that, Julie, because I don't have social media. And one could say, especially back in my day when I was a little more social, I was a connector. I knew everybody in every place, especially when I was working in a small college town. It's easy to get to know everybody, all of the vendors, all of the employees, all of the regulars across the town. You're a regular, so you get to know other regulars at other places. And so it was one of those things where anytime somebody was like, hey, do you know somebody who, I generally had the answer.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're still a connector. You're just a little bit of a covert connector in that you're not doing it in the public eye. You're not on social media, but you know everybody, and it's very infrequent that I'll be like, hey, do you know somebody who does X? And you don't know somebody, or you can't find somebody who does. So I think you're still a connector. I think you just do it in a different way than most people are used to people connecting now.
Sure. And it's, I personally, I feel like there's a little more value to that than the social media aspect, because there's, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's kind of like casting a wide net, but it's ineffective versus going out and looking for a certain thing. So, casting that wide net is that social media approach where it's like, there's 10,000 people who might see this. I'm going to throw this thing out there and hope that a couple people bite, versus I know this one person will bite.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking earlier today about social media, and they call it a social network, right? How many people actually use social media to their advantage for networking versus using it as being on send all the time and sending out these micro updates about what's happening in their lives that most people don't care about?
Oh, yes. And that's another reason why I don't like social media, because I do not care what most people have to say, because most of the time there's no substance to it.
Right.
It's back in the day, you had to get your soapbox and go stand in the town square and yell, and the only people who had to listen to you were whoever was in earshot. Now everybody thinks everybody's in earshot across the planet. And the funny thing is, like you said, everybody's on send, so nobody's receiving.
Right. Yeah. Don't you feel like we would have done really well in the olden days?
I don't know.
No?
Well, no, I don't know. I would have. You would never see me. I'd be gone. I'd be out in the Louisiana Purchase.
You'd be missing.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate how, I guess, in a world where we're really dependent on our network a lot of times, I hate how connected everybody is all the time, if that makes sense.
Well, are you saying connected as in people can't leave home without their phone because they feel...
Kind of. Like, I just don't, I don't see the value in posting everything I do on social media.
Sure.
And, I could say my life's not that interesting. In a lot of ways, my life is pretty interesting, but I also feel like if I tell everybody everything that's going on, what do I have left for myself?
Well, and that's also the way that I view a lot of communications. Like I've said it before on this podcast, where it's, a phone call, I need something immediately. Text is something in the, sometime soon. And then emails when you can get around to it, type of thing, within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. And the social media is like, hey, I need to tell you this right now. And I always or text messages or phone calls or conversations, whatever. I'm like, what is the value of me knowing that? Like, I don't need to know that. And I definitely didn't need to know it right now, So that's like the thing with social media, where it's like, hey, I've got this tweet, pay attention to me now. I'm like, just save it or don't say it.
You're so discerning about how you receive information, though. You know what I mean? I don't think I know anyone else. I don't have anyone else in my life who receives information the way that you do. And it took me a really long time to get used to it, right? Where initially I would get really super offended and hurt if I would send you a text and you didn't reply. And now I'm just like, there's no need for him to reply to that text. That's just informational and he'll absorb it when he needs it. And if he doesn't need it, I'll never hear from him on it anyway. Right.
Well, yeah. And it's like, I often won't reply thanks.
Yeah. I've tried to adopt that habit from you because it's just an extra text.
It's an extra text. And it's like, for me, the concept of having to pick up my phone, enter in the code, look at the whatever, where I'm just like, just for a thanks. I don't need the thanks. You asked for something, I gave it to you. End of transaction. We're done.
So when somebody says thanks to you via text or email, you get annoyed?
Yes.
It's interesting.
I don't need acknowledgement. Especially if it's one of those things where it's like, you're asking me for something and I give it to you. I don't if you choose to look at that or do anything with it, that's not on me. I did my part of the job. Done. My part of the transaction is over. Exactly.
It's ended. That's so funny. So when because you're not on social, how do you build your network now? Especially in I know the answer to this, but the last 12 months has been a little bit tough to expand a network with no social media, right? Well, I think you've expanded yours by extension of me, because my network is now yours, which you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. But that's how I build my network, is through other people.
Steal other people's people.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's steal, but it's one of those things. It's make a connection with somebody. It's we're working with Dan Helm on occasion. He works for Avenue Right out of Fargo, North Dakota. They do media advertising, whatever. He is my sister-in-law's wife's husband. Sister-in-law's best friend's husband. There we go.
That's a better way to say it.
Yes, exactly. Sister-in-law's best friend's husband.
Yeah.
So it's third removed, and I've seen him twice in life, in person. But we've connected.
We've seen him on Zoom 10 times.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah. He's a nice guy too.
Yeah.
But that is how it works, right? Somebody knows somebody, because even our SEO people, right? You might know Ryan a little bit better than.
I've got some stories about Ryan.
What is they're with
550 Media or 550L, whatever. Limited.
Yeah. 550 Limited out of Denver.
Yeah.
Great guys, but that's also just an extension of a network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was, so he's my brother's age, so he's a little bit older than me, but we're all in the same fraternity and all of that. So a little closer than Dan is, but in terms of degrees of separation.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. All right. We should probably wrap up, and we can bring Jen in after the break.
Hey, everyone. If you're like most entrepreneurs out there, time is not something you ever seem to have enough of. We get it. There are a million things that need your attention, both in business and in your personal life. That's why we created Time Bomb. This is a self-paced course designed to help you determine what your time is worth and where you should be spending those precious hours every day. Right now, we have an option to buy the bundle, which also includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time. It's a $70 deal you're getting for only an additional $30. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life.
All right, welcome back to the show. We've got Jen with us. She is in Chicago, Illinois. And like we said earlier, we're going to talk about networking and the value of your network. And Jen is quite the connector. So Jen, can you tell our listeners a little bit about you and what makes you so great at connecting people?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. To just start it off, I'm Jen. I'm married. I live in Chicago with my wonderful husband, who's a teacher. And really the whole connection piece is I started my own practice, a financial practice in December of 2019. And I quickly realized that in order to build a business, you have to be connected and you have to continually be connecting. So that's where I kind of jumped into this space of needing to understand and how to do it properly. But just a little bit more background before I jump into that is I come from a really small town. So people usually giggle when I say I had 28 kids in my graduating class, my high school graduating class, but I had 500,000 chickens. So, so I came from a small farm community where there was more animals in the farm than there were people. And so really when I started building my business, I realized that I had to expand my network, and that's where I got really uncomfortable and just led by faith and started connecting with people in more of an untraditional way than I was taught to connect with people, if you will.
Sure. But so you said that you started your business in 2019 and had to start connecting, but connecting isn't something that you just start doing. You can't just say, you know what, I'm going to start connecting today. Like that's kind of, it's a personality trait. It's something that you have to build or it's just a part of your, like how you're raised or how you grow as a person. So like, how did you start connecting?
So I would say it actually started at more of a younger age for me than just in 2019. So I've always been wanting to know everybody. And I think it really stems from coming from that small town for me, where I felt like I didn't know anything outside this little bubble that I lived in. So I wanted to go to the biggest school ever. I went to the University of Illinois, and my goal was to meet a new person every single day. And just connect and find out what's going on with everybody and how that works into my life. But to fast forward to right now, what does it mean? You do kind of have to have the personality, but to be completely honest with you, Corey, I'm an introvert. I have to make myself be bubbly and outgoing and try to get in front of people and do all those things, which people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm really not. So I actually get really uncomfortable every time I network. And I also thought about it from a business perspective and a personal development perspective. I wanted to be surrounded by people that had same visions as me, values, morals, all of those things. And so that's where I said, hey, if I'm not getting it in my initial network and I'm wanting to expand, I'm just going to have to jump into these places and say, hi, I'm Jen. You know, do you want to set up a virtual coffee with me? And we get to know each other, similar to what Julie and I did, and really hit it off and have been becoming good friends since that. So networking starts off where you're not friends, and then you eventually build that relationship enough to become friends. And then the networking actually gets easier.
Yeah. I am laughing at a couple of things you said. First off, I'm an introvert too. And I am an introvert. Like
that's me scouring at Julie.
Yes, he scoured at me. And you know how you can tell, this is how I define the difference between an introvert and an extrovert. And this is not my definition. It is stolen from somewhere, but you are an introvert or an extrovert based on how you recharge your batteries, not so much in how you interact with people, but if you need to be alone to become replenished and refreshed, you are an introvert. And if you need to surround yourself with other people to be energized, you are an extrovert. I am an introvert. How much time do I spend alone? I spend a lot of time alone.
I don't know, but so question before we get anything. When you're on an airplane sitting next to a stranger, are you earphones in, no conversation, or are you striking up a conversation? Because that's how I define introvert or extrovert.
I am headphones in. Please don't talk to me.
I'm headphones in. Julie?
Am I sitting next to you?
Sitting next to people, stranger.
Oh, stranger, headphones in.
You're striking up a conversation, liar.
Okay, maybe sometimes. But the other thing I was going to say is I think you're the first person in a very long time that I've met who had a smaller graduating class than I did. Like, my hometown was like 2,000 people. There was like 75 people in my graduating class.
Yeah, my town is really, really small, but I'm so blessed to come from there.
Yeah.
Because I had such core foundational values, really driven from there. But so I'm very proud of it. Although I was really excited to go to U of I too and meet a new person every day.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know when we did our first, coffee conversation, one of the things that you did that impressed me so much was at the end, and for whatever reason, we just had this really quick connection, right? And you became like this safe space because I'm pretty sure it was our first call where I cried, right? I'm pretty sure I did, right?
That happens a lot on my first calls with people. It's really interesting. I'm like, I don't know what it is about me, but I've had multiple calls where it's like our first introduction and then they just break down, start crying and telling me all the troubles that they're having. And I just listen.
Yeah. But what you did at the end of that call was you made connections for me with like 5 other people in your network that you're like, this person could help you. You should talk to this person. This will be a good person for you to connect with. And you gave so generously of your network and expanded my network just simply because you were like, I've got people that can help you that have already been through what you're going through right now. So let's connect you and y'all can they can help you get to that next level. And not a lot of people are that generous with their networks. A lot of people like to, hold their networks very close and not share them. And I know some people who think I'm not going to share my network resources with you unless you pay me for them.
Yeah. And it's really funny you just said that part because my husband's like, is there any way you can start getting paid for how much you help everybody else? Because I am, and it was actually a really interesting thing. And I think this just comes from me having a strong Christian background, that I just feel like you need to give unconditionally to others. And that's just the right thing to do. And so I don't pre-qualify people. I don't judge people. I don't do any of that. I go, hey, Julie's got a problem. It's not a problem that I personally can fix, whatever it was at that time. I totally forgot what it even was you were upset about. But who do I know that can help Julie? Because isn't that what people are out to do, is help others? Aren't we all in the business of helping others if we have a product or whatever we're selling, air quotes? We're out to help. So do that and do it unapologetically. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is I connected you with someone in my network that says, I didn't really like Julie. Okay, cool. That's okay. Or you could say, hey, Jen, that was a really crappy connection. I'd be like, okay, well, I won't do that one again. But no, it's so important to be connecting other people. And I've never had that feel around my network. However, I'd love to broach the conversation on what does it look like for your family for introductions? So I don't know about you guys, but I'm really easy. Well, I give everybody recommendations easily, but most people are really tight about referring anybody that's close to them versus someone that's a little bit more of a distance connection. Like Julie, it's easier for me to connect people with you or, talk really, really highly of you and do this great connection because I don't know anything about you except for what you've told me. Right? Whereas when I talk to somebody that is a close family member, I remember what they did at 10. I remember what they did at 15. I remember what they did at 25. And so like now I'm not just recommending the person they are today, but I'm recommending the person they may have been before and will that person resurface. So I think I don't personally struggle with that because I see people for who they are in this moment. But I think a lot of people in the networking realm do struggle with that.
That's interesting. I kind of chuckled to myself when you first started talking about the friends and family and the connection there. And the reason was because so we're recording this on your birthday and you made a post yesterday that what people could do for you for your birthday was to give you a connection. That's what you asked for, was connections. And the first person that I thought of that I wanted to connect you with was my sister-in-law, Stacy, because I think you would be perfect to, talk, she's a strong woman and she handles the finances for the family. And I thought that's a perfect match. I'm going to make that connection. And I started to write it out on your Facebook post that I connect the two of you. And then I was like, nope, I'm going to do that one over a private message simply because I was like, I don't know if Stacy's going to be open to it. And I didn't want to call her out in front of everybody and be like, hey, go meet this person. So, but yeah, I'm okay. If I like the family member, I'll connect people to them.
Well, I think like such a big part of that, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but I know a lot of people do, is they think that if that connection is bad, it's going to reflect poorly on them.
Mm.
Whereas I look at it as like, if I connect you people, you're adults. You can figure it out. If it works, if it doesn't, whatever. Like I'm doing my best to connect two people. Y'all can figure it out from there. Transaction's over.
Transaction closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess so. Also, my family, we are so incredibly tight. And actually, the connection stirred the pot a little bit in me building a business and reaching out to people. It stirred the pot because I reach out to people because I truly believe that what I do for a living, whether you work with me financially or maybe it's just I connect you to that person that gives you that ability to take your business to the next level for whatever reason it is, whatever connection it is. That's a win for me. But I stirred the pot because I was reaching out to some of my family's friends saying, hey, I'm so-and-so's sister. I'm so-and-so's cousin. I'm whatever. And I had one family member like, do not reach out to any of my friends without asking me. And, I pretty much snapped and said, hey, you don't own them. They're grown adults. If they don't like that I called them, they can ignore my phone call. They can tell me to F off. They can do all of these things. And they're like, well, he had said, what do I do when they call me and ask, why is your sister calling you? Why is your cousin calling me? And I said, you know what you'd tell them? You say, why are you calling me? Why don't you call her back and see what she wants? I don't know what she wants. And so it was very frustrating to me because I'm the type of person that if there was a connection, it would be very easy for me just to say, hey, Julie's a rockin' person. Corey's awesome at what he does. And you'd be doing yourself a disservice not to just hear them out. And that, in my personal opinion, is how everybody should look at networking. Unless you hate the person and then you say, hey, he's really good at what he does, but he's a total dick. Like, go at your own risk. Like, you could do that too, right? Yeah. But you have to be able to let people evolve, make their own decisions, and just support others in their endeavors.
Yeah, and I think when there's like the best intentions, especially in networking, like I'm going to try and connect these two people because I think that it's going to be mutually beneficial. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There is a way that you can do it that's unprofessional or like going behind somebody's back to try and get a client when you should have possibly talked to that person first or whatever it is. We've had that happen to us before. But beyond that, like I think that as long as it's mutually beneficial, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that, we talk about this a lot on Clubhouse, right? In the 7-figure sales room, Jen, in that, our giving back, like helping people advance, and like, we're not the right answer for everybody, right? If somebody has needs a solution that we don't provide, or we're not experts in, or there's somebody who's more suited for them, like, isn't the most important thing that they find the solution and are able to get better? Like, does it have to be us that provides it? No, it does not. And we can't, first off, we couldn't possibly say yes to every person on the planet who has a business. We just don't have the capacity for it. But also, you want to help other people advance and grow. And I remember when that conversation happened between you and the relative, and you were devastated by it. I remember it. It was terrible. And you were literally just trying to help people. And that's not how it was interpreted.
Yeah. And the thing, yeah, it wasn't. And it was protectiveness on his side. And like we said, they start to take it like, hey, what if she doesn't do what she needs to do? And then my friend's mad at me. And, I think we just need to set that aside and just say, hey, we're all grown adults and everybody can make decisions. And honestly, who is it to someone else to say whether or not they get the opportunity to meet me? And I say that because getting the opportunity to meet me is a gift. I know that I bring a lot to the table. I know I have good intentions. I have all of these things that I want to bring to each and every person. And really, when you go into networking and you talk to someone, you have to believe that about yourself. I mean, because if you don't, where's the connection going to go? And so that's where I feel like, hey, for every single person, and when I'm talking to someone, of course, we are all trying to build our businesses, right? Every connection Julie and Corey make are are wanting to maybe either A, that person's going to be a client, or B, they know someone that can be a client. Would that be pretty accurate usually when you're networking?
Pretty accurate. Yep.
Okay. So you're doing that, but that's just the thing. That first person, you're kind of asking them questions. You're getting to know them. You're seeing what ticks. You're listening for all of these different types of problems that maybe or maybe not you can be a solution. And at the end of the day, if they have a great experience with you and you never bring up your business at all, they're going to remember they had a good experience with you. And that's when you start building rapport and empathy toward one another. And that's when the like magic starts to happen, essentially. And there's going to be people you network with that you just don't jive with. And that's nothing against either one of you. You just didn't jive and you move on, right?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not a believer in karma. I don't think that there's some magic genie out there with a ledger, like keeping track of everything that everybody's doing and all of that. But to say that good things come to, good people or whatever, like it is true, because if you're 100% just like being like open and honest of, I don't want anything out of this transaction, I just want to connect the two of you, people are going to remember that, and you're going to get paid back at some point. And it might not be from that particular person, but they're going to tell somebody who might tell somebody, or 6 months, 6 years down the road, something might click. Oh, hey, I got the perfect person for you type of situation.
Right. And I think it's also important. I don't know if you guys do this, but I keep like a list, this weird spreadsheet that is what I call the Arsenal of Referrals, because not at every minute of every moment am I going to remember. I network a lot. And so I don't always remember who's who, what they specialize in, etc., in regards to just right away coming off the top of my mind, especially if I haven't talked to them in 2 months. But what I do is I keep a spreadsheet, and I'll put, Julie down and SB Pace, and I'll put like, had a great conversation with her, blah, 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 blah. She's really rad, yada, 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 or whatever it is. That way, when I hear someone on a call say, I need to grow my business, I can go back, if we weren't really good friends, Julie, I would go back and say, okay, I do have someone in my network that can help with that. And I put you on that list because I believed I had a great conversation. I had a great connection. Can you stay? Here's a good question for both of you guys. Can you have a great network of connections, but not be talking to them all the time, like friends?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm going to say yes. I have friends that I don't talk to for years and then just pop right back in, like nothing happened. It's, you spend some time catching up, but yeah, like for me, it's like you build that solid relationship, whatever it is. And again, they might not even have to be friends. It could be an old coworker, an old employer. I haven't spoken to them in years, but they know who I was at that point and can make an assumption that hopefully I'm still that same person. And,
right.
And I didn't abuse them at the time. And hopefully I'm not going to abuse them now in terms of, hey, I need help with something. Do you know somebody? Can you do X, Y, or Z?
Yeah. I just think all too often when people network, they feel like they have, in order to get anywhere, they have to be best friends with those people. You don't have to do that. Like, Julie and I talk pretty regularly because we're usually in the same clubhouse room. But at the same time, even though I don't know Julie's deepest, darkest secrets, she is part of my network. And I would easily reach out to her in that moment of going, oh my gosh, like I reached out to our networking group because I was so mortified by what had happened with a connection within the family that, I reached out to all those people to lean on. And I think if you're surrounding yourself with people that have that same mentality, they're going to know it's nothing like rude if all of a sudden I send Julie a message and say, hey, I have a goal to reach 10 new discovery calls this month. Would you mind, going through your phone and seeing if you got 10 people? I don't think I have to be, going to wine night with Julie to be able to do that with her. And that's my point. Do you have to be having regular interactions with these people to call on them in your time of need?
Well, and I think that it goes back to whether you're just like a taker, because there are those people who are always asking for help and never giving back. But if it's always reciprocal, then it's one of those things where I don't think most people would really care if you haven't spoken to them in 5 years. If it's like, oh, well, he or she was a good person at the time. They weren't always trying to abuse the relationship. No big deal if you're just popping in right now, because I mean, the phones work both ways. So when people are like, oh, well, we haven't spoken in 5 years, you didn't call me either, you know? So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think you have to, the goal in every relationship should be to give more than you take, right? And that's one of the reasons that, that's one of the things I love about Arate so much, is that that's the golden rule there: give more than you take. And for the most part, people are pretty good about that inside of that group. And I think, if somebody makes a genuine ask of me, I will help them, right? Like, it doesn't even, to me, it doesn't even matter. Like, if I don't know the person that well, or if I really like, am not like, even if I think like, I'm not sure I actually like this person, if they're making an ask and it's a genuine ask, then I'm like, I have the solution. I'll help them I'll give them the solution. I'll give them the person they need, whatever, because I just think help is never one-sided, right? So Jen, if you have a need that needs to be filled, you need a client for something, like you really need a new client to hit your numbers, and I have somebody who really needs financial help, are both of you not winning by connecting together? Right. So like, why? So even if you're like, I'm not crazy. And we had this situation once, not that long ago. Like last summer, we were working with somebody and she was not, she was a good person and she needed help with something. She asked us to connect her to somebody. Actually, she didn't ask. She was just a good person, and someone else in our network who it's kind of a little bit shady, he wanted to work with her. And so he reached out to me and asked for her information. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give it to you, simply because it was going to benefit her, right? She was going to be able to grow her client base. I was like, I didn't care if it benefited him, but it was a win for her. It was also a win for him, but you have to kind of look at it holistically and think, what is this doing? Who's it helping? Because the reality is there's always two people in the equation. And just because you're the seller of a service or a product, like, the other person who's receiving it is also getting help. They're winning in that equation.
Right. And I think also when you do introductions, so once you've kind of built your network and you have all these great people in it, if I'm going to refer someone to the both of you, I just want to kind of highlight what an actual introduction, you can do different ways of doing, like an introduction email or a text message, or you can just have the person call them and talk to them beforehand or whatever. But I think it's really important to set the stage of why this connection is happening. Because all too often I've gotten a connection of just like, hey, Julie's really awesome. Jen, you're really awesome. I think you guys would have synergy. Okay, over what? Because time is important. Like, what are Julie and I jiving over? That's what I want to know, because I don't have a half an hour in my day to put a virtual coffee together to sit and ask, these stupid filler questions with Julie. Like, what's the point of us meeting? And so that's super important. And maybe it is not a mutual in regards to, maybe it's just, hey, Julie, I think Corey's a badass and you need to meet him because he's building this business. I don't know what he's got going on, but all you do is help businesses grow. And so I would set the stage for that introduction of, hey, Julie, this is Corey. This is why I'm connecting you. Corey, this is Julie. This is why I'm connecting you. And the meaning, it might only be a sale on Julie's end. But at least let both parties know why they're going into the meeting. Because there's nothing worse than someone connecting me with someone and me going in and going straight into my financial discovery process and them going, whoa, nope, we didn't sign up for this. So, you know what I mean? So that's where it can get weird, and you just have to be, and that way, sometimes people will say, I'll let you take it from here. And then go ahead and they can say, yeah, does this make sense? And sometimes a lot of people will be forward and say, hey, does it make sense for us to get together, before they actually put it on their calendar? So I think that's really important too. And never underestimate the importance of a favorable introduction by a nominated person. Because most likely if I say, hey, Julie can really help Corey, and Corey and I are like BFF. Even if he doesn't know Julie, he's gonna go, hey, Jen's awesome, and I'm gonna take her word that I need to meet Julie because she has good intentions.
Yep. That's a very important part of networking, and works really, to me, that's the best part. Like when it's like, you and I know each other well enough and trust each other enough that whoever you refer me to or I refer you to, you're going to go, okay, I'm going to take that one seriously because it came from somebody that I know, like, and trust.
Yeah. And I think that's a really, really, really big piece of networking is you're building trust with all these people. And that's how you're going to get referred, known, liked, and trusted.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, we have to start wrapping up the show. So before we go, could you tell everybody how they could connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way really is social media. So I'm on LinkedIn, which is just Jennifer Radostits. And then you can go ahead and find me on Instagram, which is at jen.rads, because Radostits is a mouthful. And so I abbreviated it. But those are probably the two. You can just shoot me a message through there. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm checking that regularly. Since today's my birthday, it's going to probably be pretty full.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us, and thanks to our listeners. And all of the different ways that you can connect with Jen will be in the show notes, as well as the ways that you can connect with us, which are?
Yeah, you can connect with us on social media. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, the Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel. You can also reach us on sbpace.com.
And while you're listening to our pod, don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're using to listen to us. Like us, give us a review. We appreciate any and all feedback about our show.
We really do. And reach out about any topics that you're interested in hearing more about, or if there's been any guests we've had on in the past that you would like us to bring back, let us know and we'll see if we can make that happen. And by the way, we wrote a book. It's a #1 bestseller. It's on Amazon. It comes with a companion workbook, and it's called Seriously Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness.
And don't forget to rate and review that book as well if you've purchased it. So back to the feedback. We love it. Give us all the feedback. So that's it for the show. I am Corey.
And I am Julie.
And this was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America.